Welcome to Lounge TV. I'm Larry, and today we're doing a chilling and grilling. It's been quite some time that we've done a chilling and grilling, but I am going to make my chicken pot pie, which is absolutely unbelievable. So I know I've made this before, but this is the updated version where before I used to use cream of chicken soup. I've updated it where I don't use that anymore. I use chicken broth. So I actually think this is better than it was before. What do you think, Tom?
I'd agree.
There you go. So you need a lot of ingredients for this, guys. As you can see, this is, I think I have everything out. I'm pretty sure, pretty sure I think we have them all. So what you're gonna need is a large onion, much larger than this if you have it. I like this big, but that's okay if it's this size. Just don't use a really small onion. If you use a small onion, you use two. I might even, there's another one in there I saw, I might use two of these onions. So an onion. About 4 potatoes you're going to need. If you have large potatoes, like, you know, this size, then it probably would just take 3. But there wasn't 3 large ones in there. Can of, you can use fresh mushrooms. I use canned mushrooms on mine. You need some chicken broth. You need some butter. Oh, don't forget celery and carrots too. I forgot they were in the front, Tom. Forgot about that.
Pretty important.
You're going to need flour, some salt, some pepper, some... oh, what is that?
Shortening?
Shortening. It left my brain, just like
Apparently.
that. You need, what do we got in the front here? We got sage and chicken bouillon. And you have parsley flakes. If you have fresh parsley, put a little parsley. That's even better. You're going to need some heavy cream, some H2O, and, of course, chicken breast. Now, this is steps that you got to do in this, where you're going to make your crust. Some of these ingredients are for crust. You got your chicken. Oh, and also for your chicken, you use seasoning. Now, you could just use salt and pepper if you want to, but I'm going to use Montreal chicken seasoning on that, which I did not put up here, but we have. So, first step you want to do is start chopping those vegetables up and get them in the pan to boil. Actually, wait a second. First step I want to do is, because this is frozen chicken tenders that I have, I got to put them in the microwave to thaw them out a little bit before I start. You can't cook frozen chicken. Got to have it thawed out before we get that to that point. But so the first step I'm going to do is put that in the microwave and chop my vegetables up.
Sounds good.
Okay. So you want to chop your vegetables up, like I said. You cube your potatoes like that. What would you say that is? About a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, something like close to that. Right? You want them all around the same size so that they kind of cook evenly. Same thing with your celery. That was 4 stalks, but the stalks were only like this long. If they were regular stalks, I'd probably use, like the whole thing, I would probably use 3. And that's like 1.5 carrot. I didn't use two whole carrots because it'd be too much.
I thought I heard you crunching.
Oh, did you? Yeah, well, I sneak it when I can. So yeah, put all them in together, guys. Try not to get it all over the floor or anything like that. Put them all in that pot together. Like that. Oop. Oop. Tom, you want to get them for me? Put them on your stove. I'm not going to start them up just yet. You do want to put a lid. Let me pick these carrots up that Tom threw on the floor. I don't want to start them up yet, but you do want to put a lid on that because you are going to boil them. As you can see, I also chopped up my onion, all about the same size. We'll get to that in a little bit. Just getting this stuff ready right now because that takes the longest as far as chopping up and stuff like that. Next thing I want to do is cook my chicken. Actually, no. The next thing I want to do is make my crust first, and then we're going to cook that chicken. So let me get my crust stuff ready. Here comes the fun part, guys. The crust. And I don't make myself out to be like some great chef, or especially when it comes to pastry stuff like this, but the crust is delicious. It's just sometimes it can be very hard to work with. So 3 cups of flour, 1.5 tablespoons, was it tablespoons?
Teaspoons, you said.
Teaspoons of salt. I'll mix that up a little bit before I get started, guys. Just use a fork for this. Oh, Okay, so here's where the work comes in. You need 1 cup of shortening. Yeah, this is our fancy shortening thing. Push it right out like that. Don't let any of it try to slip away. And I am using this thing, and I forget what this is called, but this is what I use. I think it's a pastry cutter, I think it's called. So now I want to put some flour on this thing, because now I'm going to just be constantly. Now you can use knives. Some people use knives and they just like that. I find it a lot easier with this. Just going to keep doing this. And if it gets too much, like you see how it's all in there like that, just get your knife out. Try to get it all over the place, or not all over the place. And get that in there like so. This one tried to get away. Boom. So just keep going like this. It seems like a lot of flour as opposed to shortening, and it is. But this is the recipe that we follow. You're going to keep going like this until you get these pieces of shortening about the size of peas. So I just have to keep doing this.
On and on and on.
On and on and on. We'll turn the camera back on when this step gets done. We're ready to go. So there we go, guys. It's almost the size of peas. They're going to be various sizes, but you just don't want big giant clumps. So now just regular cold water you want, right?
Just cold.
And a tablespoon. You're going to do 1 tablespoon at a time. So you take a tablespoon of water, put it on your dough like that, and you just kind of like push that to the side. And you do it again. And you flip that aside. With the stuff that got wet, you flip aside. 2, 3.
Why wouldn't you just dump the whole thing in?
Because that's not how you do it. You don't want one big clump.
That's what happened. It would just turn to one huge clump.
Yeah. See how it's getting on the fork there? Right? It'll get to one big giant clump like that. You don't want it like that.
Gotcha.
And it calls for about 7 or 8 for this recipe. But the problem is with that is that it all depends on what the humidity is in the house and stuff, right? And the humidity right now is very dry because it's cold outside. And every once in a while you're gonna have to take that off your fork. Here's the thing, guys, there is no, this is where I say, some people, I'm probably gonna get a lot of comments on people that say, no, that's not how you do it like this. And you're probably right. This is how I do it.
And you've been making this pot pie for how many years?
It's been quite a few years.
Exactly.
And I've had some crusts where, you know, it's too wet, and I've had some where it's too dry. I'd rather have it too wet than too dry. Now, if Joe was here, there'd probably be some other kind of comment made with that. But Joe's not here, so I won't go there. And Tom doesn't want me to go there anyway. But what because you can work the wet dough. You can work that to get it nice and spread. But if it's dry, it just falls right apart. Okay, so
makes no sense.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that. So you kind of just pushing it aside like this, and you can see there's still a lot of dry stuff in there. I'm just going to dump a little more water in there.
So what exactly are you looking for?
I don't know, Tom. I just am looking for good dough. What are you looking for?
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
No, I want it to be, see how it's like clumping up? That's fine when it clumps up like that. But you see how dry it is over here still? I don't want that. So I'm going to have to put a little bit more over here. Let it soak in a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Try another one over here. Yeah. Right? See, because once I get to this next step where I'm going to be pushing it all together, I can't add water at that point. So I just want to make sure. There we go. And that's probably going to be all I need now. Hopefully. Hopefully. I still see a lot of dry in there, but I think we're okay now. So now here's where make sure you had your hands washed, that you're going to want to use your hands in this, because you're going to grab this and you're going to kind of like squish it together. This is when you'll find out it's either too wet or too dry. I'm going to need 2 balls of this, right? One's going to be for the top and one's going to be for the bottom. So this is what I do. I kind of push it all together like this. Put that down at the bottom. And I think that this is wet enough. I'm hoping. It looks a little dry, don't it?
Definitely a lot of dry around it.
Yeah. It feels moist enough. So I made about two about the right size to get same. You know, they're about even. I am going to just put a little bit right in this spot right there. Because I don't... You got to have plenty of dough for this. So I'm going to take what I have left here. I want one larger bowl than the other, and the reason why I want that like that is because the bottom that's going to go in the pan uses a lot more dough than the top.
That makes sense.
It's got to go down like that, you know.
It's got to go across the sides.
Yeah. Okay, so what I do is I get it in a bowl like this, both of these, right? Now, I like to put a little flour over these guys. Just so that they don't stick to the bottom. Oops. Oh, that might... You need to stop acting up like that. All right, we're good. You know what it is? That was that piece that I put on there.
The part that you grafted on.
Well, we'll find out if it's too dry when I go to roll it out and stuff. That's for sure.
Very true.
Okay, so now that's done, what I'm going to do is put handy wrap on top of that bowl and put it in the refrigerator to get it cold. And the reason why I do this, and people might disagree with this, I do that because it's a lot easier to roll when it's cold than when it's not cold, when we're rolling it out for your dough. So get some handy wrap, put it in the refrigerator. Ooh, that was loud, wasn't it?
It was.
We'll get to the chicken. Okay guys, so you're gonna need a half cup of flour in there, right? And you're gonna take a half a teaspoon of salt. Okay, and you're gonna need can't read these very good. What the heck? Can't read it at all. Quarter. There it is. Quarter teaspoon of black pepper. And a quarter teaspoon of course it's not open. And of course, you know, it's not the easiest thing to open. Okay, and a quarter teaspoon of sage, guys. Right?
Ground sage.
Ground sage, yeah. I don't know of any other way that you use it, but...
Those are little sage leaves.
Yeah, but we're not using leaves. So anyway, mix that all up in there, guys. We're not going to be... we're going to be setting this aside, because this is going to be for our roux when we get to that point. But it's best to mix it together now and just set it aside. And again, I will put some handy wrap over this only because I don't want any moisture getting inside of this when I start, you know, cooking the vegetables and stuff like that. Put that aside, and then we're going to get our wet ingredients together. So now you want your 2 cups of water in here. We're getting our wet ingredients together. 2 cups of water, 3/4 cup of heavy cream. Okay. We have 1.5 tablespoons of the chicken bouillon, the ground stuff. We're gonna have 10 ounces of chicken stock.
This is where it differs from the
can of soup. I mean, you could put a can of soup in it if you wanted to instead of the chicken stock. I think it's better with the chicken stock. And then it calls for 1/4 cup of fresh parsley if you have that. But we have dried, so I'm just gonna shake some in there. Like so. I'm gonna give it a little stir.
Just a little stir.
Just a little stir to try to get some of them dry ingredients wet. And then they're just going to soak in here until I need them. And what I do with this is, again, I put a piece of handy wrap over top of it, and then I put it in the fridge until I'm ready to use it.
A lot of prep.
Okay, my favorite part, not at all. Take your chicken. These are chicken tenders, and it's about a pound's worth, right? And you're gonna cube this up into pieces like this. Now there's like a tendon in here. You find it wherever that's at in here. You want to just cut that off, put it aside if you can find it. I didn't even see one in there. So anyway, cut it up in chunks like that. I put about 2 tablespoons maybe of olive oil in the pan. So I'm just going to put that in there like that. Continue to go right down the line here. Cut all these up. And then I will show you the next step. It's nice raw chicken. See, here's that tendon. See it right here?
Oh yeah.
It's right there. Yeah, that. You know, I take that out. I mean, what happens? You can cook it with it, but the next thing you know, it's
You take a bite and it's a crunchy, and it's just
yeah.
like chicken's not supposed
like,
to be crunchy
yeah,
like this.
This doesn't belong here. Oh, didn't cut the tendon out. So anyway, yeah, continue to do it like this, guys. After it's all cut up, again, you want to cut them in about the same size pieces. Think about, you know, you're eating this, right? You want to, if you get a fork full of it, you want to be able to just put it in your mouth. You don't want too big a piece that you got to bite it off, right? So that's why you cut it in about mouth-sized pieces. Plus, it cooks a lot faster that way too.
Makes enough sense.
And this is a little bit still frozen. By the time I start cooking that, it'll be thawed out because it's small. Most of it's all thawed out though. All right, so let me finish this and then we'll get cooking, finally.
All right.
So guys, since your hand's already chickeny, you put it in here and you kind of get that oil all over the chicken like so. Then take your Montreal chicken, which I love this stuff. And you're gonna coat it all pretty generous. Like so. Now, I'm not done with this. I will coat the chicken again when I flip it over. I only got one chicken hand, so I will put this over here. And I will turn this on. And right now I'm going to put it on a little bit less than medium. And then I can throw this chicken stuff away. Also at this time, put a lid on your vegetables and you can get them going. I'm gonna put that on kind of on high. Let them go. You want to get them to a boil. You're not going to turn them off until everything in there is soft. Carrots, celery, and potatoes. I'm cooking up the chicken now. When that gets done, I will show you what the next step is. So it's cooking up nicely, guys. What I do is, like I said, I already put a little bit more on. You got to flip them over as best as you can in there. And put a little bit more of this seasoning on there. And I'm done with that seasoning now. So what I like to do is, with this, with the spatula, no, is this spatula?
That's a spatula.
Why am I going brain dead all of a sudden?
I don't know.
This is a pretty stiff one, so I could actually like cut these pieces in half with this, as you can see. So any big pieces that you see in there, you can just kind of cut them in half, make them a little bit smaller, and at the same time, you're also seeing, are they done? You know what I mean? Like, if there's pink in the middle, they're not done naturally. So some of these have a little bit of pink on there. Keep cooking them. The one thing I notice about this is you're not really going to make it dry. Have you ever had a dry piece of chicken with your chicken pot pie, Tom?
I don't think so.
No, you haven't. You know why? Because when I'm done cooking these, they're going to be soaking in the chicken stock, the whole roux and everything else, so it's soaking a lot of flavor back up.
Right, there's a lot of moisture around it.
Yeah.
So the chicken itself would rehydrate.
Right. So I just keep doing this. Take one of the bigger chunks and just, like I said, cut that in half. If you see pink in there, don't forget, you're not going to be done cooking this now, so it's not like, if it is a little tiny bit pink in there, it's still going to get cooked, because we're not done. You know, this is just one step. But pre-cooking it is always better. Now, as you can see, it's all cooked now, right?
Nice.
There's no pink in any of this. If I cut it in half, cuts pretty easy. So you're going to turn that off. And what I like to do is I take some paper plates, and I put a layer of paper towels there, and then I just put these on there. And it gets rid of all that oil that's in there. And I just let that sit aside. That can cool off now because it's going to go into the liquid later on. And then now we can start cooking our onions.
Nice.
What I have in here is my onions and my butter, which I have a stick of butter, which is a cup of butter, because if you remember correctly, we have what in here? A cup of flour, right? Isn't that what I said?
I think so.
Yeah, pretty sure it was. Or was it a half a cup?
Oh, no, it's
yeah, it's a half a cup, guys.
Right, because a stick is a half.
Stick is a half a cup of butter. Man, am I flipping out. That's because I'm in a rush. We got to get this thing done before a certain time. So you want to cook your onions with that. You always have equal butter and flour for a roux. So get that. We're going to get that butter all melted in there, and get these onions all nice and coated with that. And this is where I wish that we did have smell-o-vision, because cooking onions, I don't know if there's not a whole lot that smells better than that. Maybe bacon. But it's close, isn't it? Between bacon and sauteing onions?
I don't know if I could pick one over the other, to be honest.
Yeah. So I'm going to let these go. They got to get nice and soft, guys. In the meantime...
The vegetables are frothing.
What's that?
The vegetables are frothing.
Well, that's good. We want them to froth. We want them to boil, too. And once they start boiling, we're going to have to take the lid like this, guys, to get that steam out of there, or else we're going to have water coming all over the sides. In the meantime, we can get the bottom crust ready. Just as I said that, they started boiling. So now what I'm going to do is just take that lid like that so that I don't get it overboiled. Because if you ever got that on your stove, and I'm sure everybody has, it can be a mess to clean up off the stove. Right, Tom?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
That's a little panic-inducing because it always gets into the flame.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to let this keep going with the onions, and I keep stirring it. Now, if I was really good, I'd be able to flip it up in the air, but I'm not that good, and I don't want onions all over the place.
Yeah, the last thing I think we need at this point is a mess.
Yeah. So if it starts boiling high, even with the lid like that, you can just turn this down a little bit, especially because this is our
super burner.
Our super burner. Yeah. So there we go. Okay. So now I'm going to turn these down a little bit too, because I can always turn this back up. I'm just going to turn it down so that they are going slowly, so I don't want all like dark brown onions and stuff like that. So I can start on my crust now. First thing you want to do is get some flour all over I put handy wrap down, guys. I put a couple layers of, as you can see, like that. This is so I don't get a mess on the countertop, and it's easier to clean up. So I'm going to put flour all over like that. I'm going to put flour on my rolling pin, and this is a heavy rolling pin, believe it or not. It's marble. And then here's my dough I took out of the refrigerator. I'm going to put some flour all on that too, so it doesn't. We don't want it to stick on the rolling pin. So now I'm going to flatten this out with my hands at first. It's fun. Doesn't it look like fun, Tom?
Oh, so much.
Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit more flour on there. Okay, so now I'm going to roll this. Try to get it nice and flat. Scooby dooby 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 dooby. And like I said, I'm not the best, what would you call it, dough guy? But it's okay. You don't have to be the best, just as long as you're good. This is the tricky part, guys. Okay, so I cook it on top of a cookie sheet like this. So what I want to do is I kind of like to roll this up like this.
I don't know, that way it doesn't like collapse under its own weight.
Yeah, and then I just kind of unroll it in here. And you see you're going to get holes in it, because that's just how I do. But once I get it to the sides here, I can kind of use the sides to hold it up like this. And I don't know about you, Tom, but me, one of my favorite parts of this is this dough right here. The dough that's cooking underneath. So I break off this stuff that's around the side here like this, and then I'll patch spots if I don't have enough on the sides like that. I mean, this is on the inside. Nobody can see it anyway, so who really cares, right?
Yeah, this doesn't have to look immaculate.
Right, exactly. And all the pieces that are left over, guys, you want to kind of have them in the inside.
Because otherwise they'll just burn on the outside and you can't even eat them. What's the point?
And the doughy part of this is where the deliciousness comes into play. All right, so there we go. There's the bottom crust, just like that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some more flour down here for the top part, but I'm not doing the top until we're actually ready to do that. There you go. Now I can go back to worrying about my vegetables. So while we're waiting for this, guys, now's a good time to actually preheat your oven at 450, and let that heat up, and everything's coming along nice now. It's always that prep work is always the worst thing to do. This is when you wish you had a sous chef or somebody helping you, and it goes a lot faster. But if you're doing it by yourself, it takes some time. But I think it's well worth it at the end. So Tom, I forgot, this is a lot of onions.
That is a lot of onions.
I forgot you can't eat onions. I guess you can't have any pot pie then.
I can have cheat days.
Well, I guess so. You can have a cheat day. And there might be garlic in that spice for the chicken too.
There absolutely is. I've checked it before.
Well, since it's a cheat day, I guess you can have that too then.
I already snuck a piece.
How'd you do that, you little sneak? So our vegetables are done now. And what you do is you take a fork and see if they're nice and tender. Usually the carrots and the celery take the longest. So then now you want to just drain the water out of this. Try not to burn your hand because steam can burn, guys.
Yep, that it can.
And you don't want to get burned and then you jump and the next thing you know, your vegetables are all in the sink.
This would not be good.
So there you go. You just drain that and just put that aside for now. Now, our onions are about done also.
Ah, well that was
perfect. Yeah. So now you're going to take your dry. Well, before I put that in, first take your. I almost forgot about the mushrooms. Put them in there. These are already pre-cooked mushrooms, right? Now, if they were fresh, you'd want to put them in a lot sooner than this.
Because they need to cook down.
Yeah. So I'm just going to put those mushrooms in there. Let them heat up a little bit before I go to the next step. In the meantime, what you can do is have your dry ingredients ready to go in there, but you also want to get your wet ingredients that's going to go in there too. Mushrooms have been in there for a little bit, so now I'm going to take my flour and my sage and forget what else. Pepper was in this and salt, right?
Salt.
Okay, so I'm going to just put all that in there, and I'm going to stir this all up nice and good.
This is to make the roux, right?
Roux, yes, sir. You're gonna stir that up. You don't want to overcook this flour right now, so you gotta stir it pretty good. All right, stir that up like so.
So here's a question.
What's that? Hurry up, because I'm in the middle of something. Now take your wet ingredients and pour all that in there. There we go.
Delicious.
And now I'm going to want to get all this incorporated in here.
All right. Anyway.
Go ahead. I got to constantly stir, but I'll try to entertain you, Tom.
Butter and flour. I believe you mentioned they have to be in equal proportion, right?
Equal proportions, yeah.
What would happen if you didn't?
If you messed up a little bit? I don't know. I've never done that. I've learned that it has to, people, chefs that I've watched and stuff like that say it has to be equal. Or I would think it has to be at least pretty close to equal. But yeah, I want to keep stirring this, guys, because that flour that was in there, I want to mix that all up in here.
Don't want it to clump up at the bottom, right?
Right. So I'm going to do this for a while, and now we're going to keep cooking this until it gets thick and bubbly. Not just thick, bubbly. You got to see them bubbles come up. which won't take terribly long for this. I also want to get all that flour that's on the bottom of the pan off of the bottom, you know?
Yeah.
All that good flavor in there. So I'm going to do this for a while and then let this cook down. It'll get, like I said, we'll lose a little bit in the volume. It'll get thick and bubbly. And then after that, we can pour everything into this, which by my guesstimations, we're probably going to overflow the pan because I might have cut more than usual of the potatoes and carrots in. But what we'll do is we'll pour in as much as we can. It is thick now, look at it. It's thick and it's bubbly. If I stop stirring it, you'll see. See the bubbles? Bubbles! Okay, so now, first step. Do you want to put your chicken in or you want to put that in? It doesn't matter which one you do because you're only going to kind of try to mix it up together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the vegetables first. And they're still smoking hot, as you can see. And I have to be very, very careful with this because I don't want this pan to overflow. So I'm going to stick these in and hopefully have enough room for my chicken. Ooh, she's going to be close, isn't she, Tom?
Yep.
She's going to be close. Okay, so don't necessarily want to use a spatula for this, guys, because, or not a spatula, a whisk. Duh. Okay, so now I'm going to put my chicken. Well, this would be a little tricky. I'm going to have to just grab it with my hand. And you're going to mix this like really carefully, guys, especially because she's ready to go all over the place.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to take a, I got a slotted spoon. So I'll just take this spoon. Here's a slotted one right here. Take a slotted spoon, and I'm just going to try to mix
like
this up a little.
Lift and
yeah. Lift and twist.
Yeah.
Do the old lift and twist method.
So here's a question.
I'm going to turn the flame down a little bit on this. Go ahead.
First of all, you got a little bit of spill.
Knew it would happen.
But
as soon as you asked me a question.
Why wouldn't you just, like, is there a reason that you wouldn't just pour that into the pot?
That pot?
Yeah.
I could have did that. You know what's really great though? When somebody comes up with an idea after something already happens. That's really great, you know? It just makes you kind of want to like smack somebody sometimes, you know? If you know what I'm saying, you know? So guys, after you stir this all in like that, carefully, even though you get a little bit down the sides and everything, I'm gonna make some room over here because I'm going to want to pour this into
the pie crust?
The pie crust. That's hot. Still. So I'm going to put that right there. All right, we're going to turn this off. And now we will pour this carefully into the pie crust. I think you're going to want to be over here, Tom. Because I'm going to have to, I'll do it like this, okay?
Well, yeah, but the pan's going to obscure it.
What pan?
The pan that you're going to be pouring into it.
That is true, because I got to go right-handed.
Yeah.
Yeah, go over here.
I don't know what I'm doing.
You don't know what you're doing. All right, let me put it in there, because this is kind of heavy. And pour all that goodness in there. Okay, so when you get down like that, now I can just take this and get this rest of this goodness out of here. There, like so. Spread this all out over here. There we go, get some of that fluid over here.
Makes me hungry just looking at it.
I know, right? Now, we're waiting now because we're not ready yet. Now,
We're not?
Not yet. Now we have to make the top crust for it, which is always, put this right there. Okay. So over here like that. No, I don't want to put that in there. It's still hot. Okay. Now, here we go. Take the top crust out of here, like that. Put that there. Let me get this bowl out of the way. Well, we made good time, Tom. It should be off just cool enough so we can put it in the fridge. And your mom could just warm it up when she's ready. All right, so flour that all up, put that down, put some flour on the roller, flatten this out like we did on the bottom. Try to make it oblong. That's what I try to do, make it, because that's kind of how the pan is shaped. It's a lot like work. Okay, so now I can try to roll this out carefully. You know, I always like when you roll things out like this. You roll it out and it springs right back to where it was. I'm trying to get a nice flat sheet in here for the top. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and I'll patch it up like I did on the other thing, as best as I can. All right, so there we go. Now we'll try to do the old roll method again. And I'm going to go like this. Bam! Now, do not waste this crust, guys. That would be sacrilegious.
Heretical.
Yeah, you shove that inside there.
Blasphemous, even.
Blasphemous, definitely. And there's plenty of it on the outside here.
A big no-no.
Big, giant no-no. Like I said, you shove that stuff inside there. That's goodness. For goodness sake. Okay. There we go. I'm going to put that right there on top.
There's a little bit you could take off of that corner right there.
Oh, right here? Well, I got a pincher still. Put that like that. I'm pinching it together all around there, guys. If there's any where it's hanging off real far, grab it off like so and put that inside. If you can find a spot to open it up, like right there, and just shove it in there. There we go. Now, next step. You think you're done? No. Let me get this excess off of this cookie sheet because that's just going to burn anyway. You got to get a knife. So let me get a little knifey out of here. And the reason why you need a knife is you got to cut little, I like to cut little X's in there and make it nice and pretty. X marks the spot. And that's just so that it can, the steam doesn't make a big bubble in this, you know?
That could be a problem.
Yeah. Put them in there like so. That looks good. And now, let me wash my hands and then I'm going to pop it in the oven. So we are going to pop it in the oven.
Which has finished preheating.
Get your rack to right around the middle-ish. Put that in there. Close the door. Put your timer on. Put your timer on for 10 to 12 minutes. I'm going to put it in 10 minutes. Check it out in 10 minutes to see if it's done. How you can tell, it should be a nice golden color on the top. You don't want it dark, just golden color.
All right.
So this is the reason I use Handy Wrap. See all that on there? Of course, I flipped it back open because I wanted to show you guys it and I got it on the thing. But all you have to do is take this, fold it all in like this.
What would otherwise be a big mess is...
Toss it in the trash. Bada bing, bada bang, you're done. And I got a little bit of cleanup to do.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. All right, so 10 minutes, our timer just went off. Open it up, not quite done. You want to see a little tiny bit of golden brown on there. So we're going to put it in for, I'm going to put 3 minutes on there. And then it should be perfect. All right, so the timer went off. Let's get this open. Yeah, you see how it's like golden brown right on there? And them little spots there? That's exactly how you want it.
Nice.
All right. Whew. I'm sweating a little bit.
Oh, we were just in a whirlwind of activity.
I can't wait to play some ping pong, I'll tell you that. Let me turn the oven off. Hey, you know what we should do? Because it's so close. We only got like, what, about 45 minutes before she gets home. I should just leave the oven off, put it back in the oven, and leave a note on top saying your dinner's in the oven. I'll text her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I left you a surprise in the oven. Yeah, there you go. That's what we're going to do. So that way we don't have to worry about a refrigerator and it'll still be warm.
Right.
Yeah, that's
that
perfect.
makes sense.
Yeah. So here it is, guys.